One could say that TF2 has a lot of movement, but how much movement? Well, in this video, we're going to be going over TF2's wide variety and sheer volume of movement strategies that were found by all players in all classes. In this video, I will be going through some crazy movement strats, and at least one of those strats will blow your mind. Remember, if you like these types of videos, a subscription always helps me make more of them. Alright, let's unpack these topics. So first off, we all know that TF2 has a wide variety of movements. How much? A lot. And most of it has been from the community coming up with some crazy ideas to move as fast and efficiently as possible. Now, some of those ideas come from weapons and game mechanics where you'd least expect it. Like I was saying, there are a lot of movement capabilities that seem really odd but work nonetheless. So I want to quickly go over the obvious weapons first and then gradually make our way to some odd methods. Right off the bat, let's talk about the obviously good jumpers, like the sticky and rocket jumpers. These were both released in 2010 with their respective updates added as a practice tool for new players to learn how to master the movements of their classes. Of course, over the years, these weapons, or I guess utility, were used in different ways. Instead of being used as practice, they are used on some advanced movement strategies that would be fairly annoying for other players. One example is Demo jumping out of blue spawn on Badwater. This allows him to spawn camp the other team and absolutely annihilate Engineer Sentry. This one is pretty well known and most people do it, and it just seems like a norm at this point. As annoying as it is, it's still fairly easy to counter this. And now the rocket jumper. This one was also added to help teach new players how to learn to rocket jump, but now it's just used for children. If you see anyone with this utility item, it is pretty safe to say that they have a market gardener in their back pocket that can either delete you from existence or for you to blast them in the face with a shotgun because you watched Soundsmith's video on how to counter Trollger. Also, because I said the words sound and smith in the same sentence, does that mean I could put that in my video tags? Probably not. I don't think you'll find that funny. Anyways, these two weapons offer a unique ability to move around the map in many different techniques, and one of those techniques is pogoing. Soldier and Demo can both do it, and it's fairly simple to do. Does that mean I'm going to show you how to do it? Absolutely not. I'm sure you'd expect me to mention these two, so I had to get them out of the way. A lot of people already know a lot about these weapons, so I'm not going to go into minute details. Moving forward to a slightly less obvious one, Scout's Force of Nature and Soda Popper. We probably both know these as well, but I gotta clear them up. The Force of Nature offers a really recoiled shot on his second time he pulls the trigger. This allows him to get higher places really fast. He gains tremendous vertical height rather than horizontal distance, and that's the same for the rest of his weapons. And the Soda Popper offers 5 air jumps, which allows him to change his direction in an instant. Again, I am not going in depth with this because I feel like this is so commonly known already, so hold your comments for a second. I think now we're going to skip Soldier and move on to Pyro because I feel like Soldier is the most obvious of them all, along with Demo, of course. So Pyro doesn't have a lot of movement, but he actually has a few devices or utility that lets him gain a few extra feet in his vertical. So first off, Pyro's secondary slot has many different utility items, but the most obvious ones that I will mention are his flare guns. Starting off with the Scorch Shot, or known as the Scorch, this weapon allows him to gain a little bit of momentum and speed if done properly. Most people just use it to gain a foot or so in vertical propulsion, but don't seem to know how to use it to the max. Now just wait a minute before we continue. What I'm about to say is incredibly theoretical and I am not sure if I've seen it done before. I have a few ideas, but please do not take this one too seriously. I've done some research, but not a lot of it was conclusive, so just hear me out with this one. So in source games, strafing is pretty crazy and can allow for technically infinite speed and momentum. However, because Valve hates fun, they have TF2 official servers capped to be around 450 hammer units a second, which means you can only strafe to get so much speed. But wait, Pyro's base speed is 300 hammer units per second, which means using the Scorch Shot to surf and strafe allows Pyro to run faster by constantly strafing. Now, I don't know exactly how to do this, but I know that it is possible and quite effective, maybe. You can see some professional players in comp strafe and clips of Sketchek doing it as well. But if you upgrade to the Detonator, then you gain even more vertical movement and it's easier to get into the strafing action in comparison to the Scorch Shot. And if we can strafe and build momentum while holding the power jack, then you go pretty fast, 515 hammer units per second fast, and for reference, Scout is only 520. So if you do it right, which I've never seen done before necessarily, Pyro can become the Scout, which is super awesome. Also, Pyro's Air Blast can be hella effective. He can reflect rockets, which allows him to actually use them for his own game. It's hard to do sometimes, but does work well. Neither you or your opponent will see that coming. Wait, there is something I want to talk about for Demo. We know his Sticky Jumper and Stickies can propel him at Mach Jesus across the map, but I think the shield needs to be mentioned for Demo. This, I think, is the ultimate form of movement and I truly believe is way cooler than any jumper weapon. Instead of covering all the shields, let's focus on just one, the Tide Turner. This absolute menace to the battlefield is why some people leave games early. This monster is what grants Demo mains high on crack the ability to fly. This is the most ridiculous item for Demo. Okay, I guess I'll explain why. So we all know what a charge is, and I'm sure a lot of people know what trimping is. but I mean, there are a lot of people out there who can really trip. In case you don't know what that means, it's sort of when you charge as demo and either hit a ledge funny or a slope, because in source games, physics just say fuck it, I'm out, and then Gaben gives you flight. And there are a lot of people out there that can take advantage of this and do some really crazy things, especially with the tide turner. Whenever you get a kill, you basically get your charge meter back and you can do it all over again. Demo has never been so effective at traveling across the map, and I think this is the craziest movement abilities in the whole game. Engineer is a really interesting class. He surprisingly has some wacky movement at times if you're good enough, and of course, none of this would be possible without his sentry gun, and more specifically, the Wrangler. Now, I'm sure many of you already know how he does this, but in case you were wondering, Engineer can now teleport to any location of the map. And no, I'm not talking about the Eureka effect, which can actually teleport you. I am talking about sentry jumping. Whether that is rocket jumping or bullet jumping is up to you, because Engineer can do both. He is able to wrangle his sentry, which allows him to have total control over the gun. He can choose to rocket jump, potentially giving him significant movement along the XYZ axis of the game, and unlike the ones I've already mentioned, this strategy allows for Engineer to move really fast to reposition quickly. What I mean is that the Engineer loses health after either bullet jumping or rocket jumping, and your skill at it would dictate whether you live or die. As tricky as it is, it can definitely provide some advantage to move this far if you're willing to lose a little bit of health, but like I said, the damage could entirely be negated if you have overheal from a medic, or where you choose to land has a medic right next to you. This movement strat is as necessary as you deem it to be. Are you willing to risk dying to move to a potentially superior viewpoint where you can hold a defensive line and maybe lose your sentry gun while jumping away? Well, that's up to you. Which, by the way, leads us into our next drawback, and that is rocket or bullet jumping can place you in a non-strategic position where you're not only low health, but you don't have your gun with you. But as I said, the health part can be negated, and guess what? So can you losing your gun. That's right, this funny little primary here, the Rescue Ranger, allows for Engineer to rocket jump and also bring his sentry gun wherever he goes. So this strat all of a sudden is way more viable, because you can get to some crazy ledges that allow you to place down your sentry gun. If you want to see some of those examples, go watch Uncle Dane, he's got tons of that stuff, but only when you're done with my video first. But like I mentioned, Engineer can now move vertically and horizontally really fast, which is awesome, and not to mention if you do pair this with the Eureka effect, he gets way more dangerous, because now this little Texan mole of genius can now place teleporters behind enemy lines, whether you are on defense or not. This comes in super handy if you're trying to pull it off. In my opinion, Engineer has some of the most obscure yet efficient ways of traveling out of most classes. Don't get me wrong, this strat isn't very common, but I know for sure in MVM I love to do it to get set up in the first wave. I can move from spawn to the first wave in around 3 to 5 seconds. This stuff is fast. Now this one has to be one of my favorite classes for movement, mainly because it is super funny and quite effective, which is weird because either many people don't know about it or because they don't like it, which is odd because like I said, this is hella funny. What am I talking about? Well, the medic of course. He possesses the all-in-one movement abilities. How? 2 words. Quick fix. Yeah, this thing is crazy. Now, if you don't mind using the quick fix as your standard healing apparatus, then awesome, because what the quick fix does is allow the user to heal and gain the movement that the other player has as well. To be more specific, it says shield charges and blast jumps, which, because of the Engineer's existence, is very broad. This means the medic can fly around while healing a soldier, demo, or engineer if he uses rockets. So medic can effectively rocket jump and market guard with any of his melees. This outright is one of the best movement utility for medic in most classes. Of course, it's hard to argue with, let's say, soldier or demo, as they arguably have the most movement in the game. But I think medic wins the utility race, as the quick fix can be almost exploited a crazy amount, and I'm still waiting for the community to actually start finding new dumb ways to use it. Well, I suppose that is it for this video. I had thoughts about this video for a while and I really sat on it. I hope you enjoyed. Just remember that I didn't mention everything that gave classes movement, only the ones I thought were worth mentioning. So sorry to the heavy sniper and spy mains. I don't think there are a whole lot for you guys out there. Anyways, thank you to those who stuck around to the end of the video. It means a lot. If you like my stuff, consider checking out my other videos on the channel. And of course, throw a sub my way if you kindly care to do so. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. These stairs are slippery. Okay, one more time. There you go. That's probably my best one yet. Awesome.